We don't get a neat or precise story of what happened to the world in The Road, but we can piece it together using context clues throughout the book. The Road is a post-apocalyptic piece of media. That's a mouthful. Which means it takes place after or post an apocalypse. We don't know what apocalypse happened in the novel, with many fan theories ranging from nuclear war, asteroids hitting the Earth, just climate change, or even a supervolcano erupting. And all these theories came about based on how the environment is described. According to the book, there is no life, there's no nature, no animals. Everything has been burnt or is still burning. The trees, grass, plants, and buildings are all burnt ruins of what they used to be. The air and sky are so thick with smog and ash that the book even gives a small mention of how the boy had never seen the sun or the sky in his life. The rivers, oceans, and lakes are tainted black with ash. The last fish in the depths of the sea choked to death. The last birds in the sky snuffed out. But we do know that this wasn't a slow or steady death. The man in flashbacks in the book mentions earthquakes and power being cut, streaks of light in the sky, clearly pointing to a singular event that caused the apocalypse. But whatever survived the first wave of death wasn't lucky, and soon enough everything else began to die within a couple of weeks. Society is long gone as well. There's no governments or institutions. Oops. That was my computer letting me know, give me a little notification. But there's no government or institutions. The closest things we see are large bands of raiders or small groups of people holding out in buildings. We don't know what caused the apocalypse, but we do know what the apocalypse caused in the world, mainly with society. Most people have resorted to being raiders or nomads, wandering the wasteland just looking for their next meal. And if you think about it for a minute, there's nothing else you can do. There's no possible way to restore a sense of normalcy, because without any animals to farm, fish to catch, or even plants to harvest, there isn't much someone can do except wait for death to inevitably reach them. This is the motivating factor why the duo is moving south. There is no sun, and thus hardly any warmth, made even worse through the winter months, and without many resources, the only options left is keep moving forward down the road, or dying behind. We also need to remind ourselves that this is a very grounded book. Unlike other stories that have some futuristic technology or some divine magic, everything that happens here in the book is very grounded. We don't know when the book takes place, but I'm guessing somewhere around the 1990s, maybe early 2000s, simply because there isn't any technology to prove that it's beyond the years that we're living through now, but neither is there anything to mention that it's way past in the future. This is what I believe differentiates the story from other post-apocalyptic pieces of media. Unlike other stories like Mad Max, Fury Road specifically because that's the only one I saw, Fallout, The Walking Dead, other ones, Metro, World War Z, The Last of Us, there's no good ending or anything close to it. There will never be any way to restore life. There's no way to sustain people anymore. There's no magical MacGuffin to save the world and nor scientific cure to help humanity. No far-off land offering salvation. All there is just ash and death. Once the provisions of the old world run out, that's it, no more food. Once the rivers run dry, there's no more water. And eventually, when hope runs out, no more humanity. This sense of nihilism and hopelessness greatly affects the man, even crying out to God in page 11 saying, "Are you there? Will I see you at last? Have you a neck which to throttle you from? Have you a heart? Damn you eternally. Have you a soul? Oh God." But even still, through all his exclaims, he doesn't live by it, because he knows he still has one last ember of hope, one more just cause, reminding him of the love of God, the boy, his son. Though, I do want to mention that there is another story that's very similar to The Road, and I'm probably going to be making a video about it, probably in my next video. And not just similar to The Road in like themes, right? But the story is almost an exact replica of The Road, using different characters in a different setting. But it has the exact same dead world, the exact same archetype of two characters traveling it, and this sense of hopelessness and finding hope in the hopelessness. But I'm going to talk about it next video, so stay tuned for that. The boy and man continued journeying down the road, into a burnt city with mummified corpses in a store. The man tells the boy to look away, trying to keep his little innocence he has left intact. Getting a bit of supplies, they trudge on, while the boy colors fangs on his mask, and the man daydreams of summer days at his uncle's lake house. For the man, this was a better time, a perfect time, that he still can't shake off his mind. The boy plays and makes the best of his journey, not knowing any other life besides this. He was born and raised in the wasteland. While exploring the stores around them, presumably a plaza of sorts, the man finds a vending machine and begins dismantling it. The boy is confused on what it is and why he's breaking into it, but the man just tells him to wait and see. They open it and ignore the piles of quarter, because what use is money now, and reach to the very bottom to find a singular Coca-Cola can. And without hesitation, the man cleans the can, opens it, and gives it to the boy without taking a sip. The boy is confused, but his dad tells him it's a treat, and so the boy drinks and is amazed at how fizzy, and how tasty it is. And he offers it to his dad, but his dad refuses. Eventually, he is convinced to take a small sip before handing it to the boy again. The boy asks, "It's because I won't ever get to drink another one, isn't it?" "Ever is a long time." "Okay," said the boy. We see the contrast here between the man and the boy walking into a store being filled with literally mummified corpses, people presumably burnt during the apocalypse, and it contrasts against the wholesomeness of the event of the dad giving his son Coca-Cola can and eventually taking a sip, knowing that the boy isn't going to ever drink one ever again. Another wholesome scene happens here. After the man makes camp, he makes some hot chocolate for him and the boy, but only pours hot water for himself, giving all the chocolate powder to his son. The boy catches on and he scolds his dad for lying, before making him take a sip and promise he won't lie again. Already just in these 3 events that happened so far, we see the contrast between the boy and the boy and the man. The man is hardened by the horrors of the world and is doing everything he can to protect the son and giving the best life he can, while the boy, being raised by his father, tries his best to keep in integrity and have a good heart, not to lie, to do good things, and constantly reminding the man to love himself as well. That very same night, the boy has a dream, or more of a nightmare, where a mechanical wind-up toy is moving and playing by itself, but it has no energy. It moved mechanically without cause. I know it doesn't sound that scary or meaningful at the moment, but let's make a note on it and touch back on it later. Anyways, the journey continues, with small events making up the entire book. The entire book is just small events of them going forward, and encountering something, and continuing on. For example, what happens right after this, a couple of days later, loud car, they find a small quote-unquote waterfall, just a really small creek, where they go for a swim, only to remember how cold it is without the sunlight. It's there under some dried leaves that the man finds some dried mushrooms that he picks and saves for later. It's not a whole meal, but anything edible they can find is good enough. This is already giving us a small example of how the world is. We only see a couple examples of food still available besides preserved food, and all the time it's buried and burnt. Here the man finds some burnt but still edible mushrooms, if you could say that, under a thick layer of burnt leaves. Later on, the man finds some barley and wheat grains stored under wooden planks that are burnt in a barn. Lastly, in the decisive part of the story, the man also finds some burnt dried apples buried in the burnt grasses of an orchid field. Wait, not orchid field, in a orchard, in a apple field, I don't know what you call it. Regardless, this affirms the theory that we have that the only resources that come from the earth itself are all just remnants of what was left from the fire and ashes. Nothing can be grown anymore. After the nice swim and the mushrooms, which they eat pan-fried, the duo returns to the road, and we get a flashback to the boy's mother. It's 1:17 a.m., and the man and the woman stand in their home. A flash of light streaks through the sky, as low booms are heard around them for minutes. The man goes and fills his bathtub, but not to take a shower, but to save water. His pregnant wife stands with him, horrified at what's happening. This was a flashback to the beginning of the apocalypse. The man being the father, and the pregnant woman being the boy's mother, if that wasn't obvious. We also see here that there's some sort of explosions and lights that was part of the apocalypse. I doubt it's nukes, because we don't see any mentions of radiation or land completely wiped out, but whatever the event was, it seemed devastating enough to end the world at the moment it began, and began to slowly snuff out whatever embers of humanity was left. The next day, the man and the boy go towards the city. Inside a giant trailer, and they find bodies and bodies of dried humans in the trailer, which scare even the man, making him set up camp in the cars because it began to rain and thunder and they didn't want to be close to the trailer. Said storm causes nearby forests and part of the city to catch fire, so they quickly escape, moving along carefully. The fire burns so hot that the metal starts to scream and the roads become melted tar, a hellish landscape even by their world standards. Content warning ahead, it's a pretty gruesome part. As they move off the road, the man is holding a son as the city and landscape burns behind them, and lightning tones down before seeing a sight even more horrific than the city itself. There's a man, burnt and melting, shuffling in the middle of the road. His clothes and skin are melted together. His shoes are made out of the wires and rags, coated and glued to the road by the melted tar. The man's hair was burned off except for a couple strands with his skull left exposed, burnt and black. Even his left eye was burnt shut. The man and the boy watched from a distance. If they didn't know any better, they would have assumed it was a zombie, a dead husk moving towards them, begging for death. But the morbid curiosity eats at them, and so they follow at a distance. After some time, the burnt man stops and just sits in the road. The man and the boy come closer, the man breathing hard and stares at the floor as the pair approaches them, as if ashamed because of what happened to him. They are quiet, but soon enough the boy begs the man to help him. What is wrong with the man? He was struck by lightning. Can't we help him, Papa? No, we can't help him. The boy kept pulling on his coat. Papa, stop it. Can't we help him, Papa? No, we can't help him. There's nothing that can be done for him. They went on and the boy was crying and kept looking back. They kept moving forward, looking back to see if the man had collapsed, spread out dead on the road. The man hugs the boy and apologizes, saying there's nothing they could have done for him. Some real horrific stuff here, considering the major events right before this was the boy swimming and the man finding some mushrooms. But sadly, it's mostly downhill from here. They move forward once again, and the man remembers how they used to play cards, using a set with a lot of missing cards, but they would still play Goldfish, Old Maid, and even made up random games while they set up camp. The man thinks about how the boy sees the world. The boy has fantasies of how the South will be, with plenty of other boys and girls he'll be able to be friends with and play with, and they'll have full sets of cards to play with his dad. An optimistic hope compared to the man's hope of a slightly less cold winter. We see here a glimpse of the hope of how hope is portrayed on the road. Not a hope for salvation, but just like the boy's fantasies, a small hope for a better tomorrow. The man, late at night and early morning, begins to cough uncontrollably, presumably in its coldest points of the day, but he moves away from the camp to not wake up the boy. So we see here the early stages of tuberculosis or some sort of lung disease or lung illness. Now we get another flashback to the man and the woman, and this part makes even the burn man seem less disturbing, so please be advised, content warning, everything here is very disturbing, but it is crucial to the book, so I'm going to include it. First, right before the flashback, the boy and the man sit next to a campfire, and the boy says he wishes he was with his mom. After some silence, the man asks if he wishes to be dead. Yes, the boy responded. You mustn't say that, said the man. But I do. Don't say it, it's a bad thing to say. I can't help it. I know, but you have to. They sit in silence for a minute in the campfire, and with that they fall asleep. In the memory, the man and the woman sit next to a fire as well. Survivors? In what God's name are you talking about? We're the Walking Dead in a horror film, answers the woman. I'm begging you. I don't care. I don't care if you cry. It doesn't mean anything to me anymore. I'm begging you, I'll do anything. They argue, the woman saying that what she's gonna do is something that she should have done a while ago, back when they still had 3 bullets instead of 2. You say you'd die for us, but what good is that? I'd take him with me if it weren't for you. You know that, don't you? It's the right thing to do. Sooner or later they will catch us, and they will kill us. They will. Me and him. And they're going to us and kill us and eat us. And you won't face it. You'd rather wait for it to happen. They continue arguing about death and hope. The man claims he would never leave her, but the woman doesn't care. What use is anything if the only end for all of them is death? She made up her mind, and she knows the father is losing hope as well. My heart was ripped out of me the night he was born, so don't ask for sorrow now. There is none, and maybe you'll do good. I doubt it, but who knows? This one thing I can tell you, that you won't survive for yourself. I know, because I would have never come this far. As for me, my only hope is eternal nothingness, and I hope with it all my heart. There is silence. The woman gets up to leave. I can't help you. Where are you going to go? You can't even see. I don't have to. The woman got up and walked into the cold darkness. In the morning, as the man and the boy left, the boy asked if she was going to die. The man answered yes, she is. She's found later by the man, having found death at the blade of an obsidian knife that he taught her how to make. Alright, let's break down what we know so far. This clearly takes place before the events of the book, but also after the events of the previous flashback. The woman is no longer pregnant, instead having the boy already, and even being old enough to speak. They have been surviving for a while, but the woman's mental health has been deteriorating. She had lost all hope for the future, saying that no matter what happens, she and the boy would be abused, killed, and even cannibalized, demonstrating the evil of the world they live in. And the man, she thought, was a coward for waiting for that to happen instead of putting them out of their misery at that moment. The man and the woman argue in the middle of the night, and finally it finishes with the woman deciding to take her life, but leaving the man and the boy out of apathy maybe. Maybe knowing the last 2 bullets in the gun will be more merciful than her death. And with that, she gets up in the middle of the night, walks into the darkness, and bleeds out to death with an obsidian blade her husband taught her how to make. But it's important to the story, not only as context to the boy's mother, but we also see the hopelessness the people have been worn down to. The woman mentions on how they had countless discussions of the pros and cons of staying alive, and so far she has seen it as good to keep living. Until now. The cruelty of the world they live in had worn her down. The constant fear of being killed, abused, starving, or freezing took a toll on her, and when she had the boy, something broke inside her. The flame of hope and love had been extinguished in her life. Seeing the boy, she just couldn't think of any justification to bring him into this cruel world. There was no hope for her, or for him, or for the man either. The man, seeing the boy, saw a reason to keep living. His innocence and love reignited the flame in his heart. He decided he was going to live for one simple reason, and that was to care for the boy. The opposite viewpoint of his wife. When people are pushed to an extreme, they only have 2 valid options. To give up, and end their journey, something that they see as easier or quick, the quote-unquote easy way out, because they see no reason to keep their hopes up if there's nothing to be hopeful for. Or, you can continue in hope and love, simply to have hope and love. While there aren't any good reasons to do this, it's better to live and fight against the cruelty of the world, to not let it extinguish your values in protest of its cruelty. We can see who chose what in this flashback. Let's continue. Again, sorry if the video sounds weird. I'm recording this under a blanket in the middle of my room, and I don't really make YouTube videos. I'm still working out my kinks, trying to figure out my vibe. But nah, we got this. We ball. A couple days later, while traveling, they notice something different. The sound of cars. They run and duck into a ditch on the side of the road with the cart, and listen as a small caravan of diesel trucks sputter along the road before coming to a stop and a couple men hopping off to refuel and stretch. There are multiple men in one group, with at least 5. They're wearing raggedy clothes, but almost all of them are wearing mouth coverings, some sort of gas masks, bandanas, paint filters, etc. And one is even wearing a protection suit, similar to a biochemical radiation suit, completely covering his entire body except for his sunken eyes. They carry rifles, seemingly hunting ones. The man holds the boy's mouth with one hand, and he grips his revolver with the other, waiting to see what the next move is, but being interrupted as one of the men unknowingly finds him while he's going out to take a leak. The man immediately points the gun at him and tells him not to look back. They stare at each other for a couple seconds while the boy covers his ears and his mouth. They talk slowly. The raider calls out his bluff, saying the man doesn't have enough bullets to take out the entire gang. But the man says that it doesn't matter because he only needs one to kill him. He wouldn't even hear the shot of the bullet as it bounces through his brain. They stay silent for a bit before the man begins questioning how much supplies the gang has. How many bullets, guns, food, or fuel. It's clear that they don't have much of anything. They all look malnourished, and considering some of them are holding clubs as weapon, ammo must be low too. But the raider ignores the question, instead asking the man if the boy is his. The man is caught off guard by the question, and the raider tells him that they could come with him, let the boy rest with them. And the father loses his concentration just for a second. Then the raider drops his belt. As he drops his belt, he grabs his knife and tackles the boy, putting the blade to his neck. Within a second of the man moving, a shot rings out. The man breathes heavy and rushes to the boy, moving the lifeless body of the raider aside as he picks up the boy, who's covered in gore and blood, carrying him as he runs into the forest of dead trees. As the rest of the men in the gang take their weapons out and start running towards the side of the ditch where they were at. Their second encounter with another human being, and it ends the same, with gore and death. They stayed far away for an entire day, the man holding and cleaning the child as he cried into his arms. A traumatizing event for both of them, but the man knows that they can't linger. So he gets the boy to stop crying, and eventually the boy becomes deathly quiet, with a wide-eyed look in his face. And they return to the part of the road where it happened, but hardly anything is left. They took all the supplies, but left the shopping cart, a couple toys, and a tarp of old rags. The raider's body was missing too, but there was a suspicious pile of rocks covering some large bones and guts picked clean. You can probably imagine what happened to the raider. They grabbed their cart and continued, but the boy didn't say much anymore. He just had wide eyes and stayed close to his father. As they go, the father talks to his son, saying that what happened then could happen again, but God appointed him to take care of the boy, and promised no one would ever hurt him again. But the boy simply asks, "Are we still the good guys?" Even through this traumatizing event, the only thing the boy can think of is about the man who died, the raider, and he's thinking to himself if he is still doing the good things. Despite the cruelty of the world, the only thing on his mind is him staying as a symbol of hope, or as a flame in the darkness, to show the world that there can still be hope and love. Without any supplies left, they steer off the road into a burnt city. As they enter, they hear a dog bark off in the distance. The boy immediately perks up before asking, "Where did it come from?" "I don't know," answers the father. "We're not going to kill it, are we, Papa?" "No, we're not going to kill it. We won't hurt the dog," he said. "I promise." These are small events so far, from the boy asking if they're still the good guys to now him asking if they're going to kill the dog, and it reflects a subtle message, like I said, about the boy wanting to stay pure, wanting to stay as a symbol of hope, wanting to continue holding on to that flame of humanity. They enter the city and salvage what they can, but it isn't much, just a handful of cornbread mix, which they have to sift to make sure it's still edible, and make it into small little pancakes for the boy and the man to eat. The boy and the man see small fires light up in the hollow remains of the skyscrapers, as figures move between the flames. That's loud. Presumably small clans or tribes that watch them from the high stories, and so the man decides it's better to leave than enter a confrontation. While they rest, the man starts pondering. Why would someone make camp up there? Couldn't they be smoked or fired out? How did they bring water up there? What were they even eating? But he's interrupted by the boy asking if they were going to be okay. "Yes, we are," answered the man. "And nothing bad is going to happen to us." "That's right," answered the father. "Because we're carrying the fire." "Yes, because we're carrying the fire." As they're ready to leave the next day, the boy wanders off from the man, and in a shocking turn of events, what he sees in front of him shocks him. He sees another little boy, around his age, maybe slightly younger, standing meters away from him, staring at him with the same wide-eyed look in his face. The boy, in shock, chases in the direction of what he saw, yelling, "I won't hurt you." But the boy only makes it a couple meters before the man grabs him and yells at him, "What are you doing?" The boy explains that he saw another little boy, but the father screams at him, "There is no little boy," as he physically holds down the boy from running. I'm saying boy a lot, holy cow. As he physically holds him down from running after the supposed boy. The kid kicks and begs to be free, but the man in anger lashes out on him, not physically but with words. There's no one to see. Do you want to die? Is that what you want? The boy answers that he doesn't care anymore, and he breaks down sobbing in the father's arms. The man immediately snaps back to reality. The boy, his boy, saying that he doesn't care about dying or living sobers him up instantly, as he kneels down holding the boy and petting his head, apologizing for yelling at him, before softly telling the boy that he shouldn't say that he shouldn't say that he doesn't care anymore. After a bit, they compose themselves, grab their cart, and they start heading away from the city. The son keeps asking about the other boy, but the father says that there is no little boy, and if there was a little boy, it belonged to his own family, and they couldn't bring him with him. I'm afraid for that little boy, said the son. I know, but he'll be alright. We should go back to get him, Papa. We could get him, and we could take him with us. We could take him, and we could take the dog too. The dog could catch something for us to eat. We can't, answered the man. And I give the little boy half of my food. Stop it, we can't. He was crying again. What about the little boy, he sobs. What about the little boy, Papa? The boy cries for the other boy, and for the dog, as they leave behind the ruined city and continue down the road. There are two different views on what this scene meant or what it's supposed to symbolize, and I'm going to go over both of them, but first I want to talk about the next scene, which is just a memory that the father has. As they go to sleep, the book shows another event, presumably a flashback, because they saw 3 bullets, not 1. Remember, they had 2 bullets, but they wasted 1, killing the raider, and the woman is still with them. The man remembers how for 2 days a dog followed them. He didn't want to waste bullets trying to catch it, so instead he made a metal noose, and he caught it. The woman couldn't care less at this point, and she ignored them as she went walking down the road by herself. The man remembers a very young boy looking at the woman, then at the dog, then at the man, before crying and pleading for the dog's life. The man stops, looks at the boy, then leaves the dog alone, before assuring the boy that they wouldn't hurt the dog. A sad excuse of a dog, mind you. He describes it as a trellis with a hide stretched over it. A trellis being one of those garden frames, which is just to say that the dog was nothing more than skin and bones, probably about to die either way. The next day when they all awoke, they saw the dog had left, and the man, or the boy, hasn't seen one since. That's the only dog he remembers seeing. He doesn't remember any little boy. Now going back to the bird city and the boy standing in front of the child, of the son, there are 2 main interpretations of what this could mean. The first one was that the boy he saw in the city wasn't a real person at all, but his desperate cling to innocence. The cruelty in the world, stacked with their starvation, definitely messed with the boy's mind. This, combined with their hopes of finding another boy his age when they reach south, may have made the boy desperate to find anyone to assure him of the hope and kindness in the world. He could have imagined a companion, someone or anyone to keep the fire of hope inside him alive. And so, a fake boy will show humanity's desperate cling to hope even when there's no one there. Similarly, people say that he saw his own reflection, chasing after himself in a way, kind of representing that he was losing himself and he was trying to cling on to these ideals that he held to, he held himself to the standard, right? Like the integrity, the love and hope. And with the past couple of events with the raider dying and them leaving the quote-unquote boy behind and leaving the dog behind, may have made him feel like he was abandoning part of himself. That part of himself that demonstrated hope and kindness. Another interpretation is that the boy he saw was real, and that's what I believe. It was already established that there were groups of people living in and around the city, and seeing the boy plead to bring the boy with them, in the same manner of him begging to keep the dog, can be evidence that he truly did see someone. In this interpretation, I think it would also be the boy trying to find hope by contradicting the man's belief that they were the only good people left, the quote-unquote last embers of Christendom, as said by the man. A real boy being there would show hope, not in finding just someone else, but finding someone else who hasn't been crushed by the cruelty of the world. A confirmation that they are not alone, and there is hope and kindness beyond them. I will not be talking about the movie's take right now, but it is a really good movie, and I think you should watch it. A lot of people hated on it, but I thought it was really good. Nonetheless, whatever the meaning of this scene was, they moved on, without another boy, and without a dog. If you remember, the man and the boy left the city with nothing more than a couple handfuls of cornbread mix. This, the man used to make some small cornbread cakes no bigger than the palm of their hands, and soon they began to starve again. The man and the boy began to walk the road again, this time with no food, with contaminated water, and no supplies. They have nothing more than the clothes on their back, a lighter, and a revolver with only one bullet. But they know that their only hope is to find supplies as they go, because they can't stay in a single place. The man keeps thinking back of what they could have done differently. Maybe hid the cart better, or get a new cart from the burnt city. Or maybe the woman was right. He should have taken the easy way out, back when they still had 2 bullets left. But again, he is snapped back to the present with the boy asking him if they were going to die. The man says no. They got water, not good water, but enough to keep them from dying, and people could go weeks without food. The boy reminds him that they have gone several weeks without food. The man stays silent, next to the campfire before hugging the boy, and both falling asleep. They encounter another raider group, hours or days later, doesn't really specify, as they were walking down the ruins of some orchard, like a field of trees, I don't know what you call that, orchard. When they're in the remains of these this field, they start hearing chains and footsteps surrounding them. And so they hide behind a stone wall that wrapped around the road, and both stayed silent. Another caravan, this time made up of wagons being pulled by slaves, marched down the road. The people on the wagons were adorned with trinkets and red scarves. Almost all of them, besides of course the slaves, had red or orange scarves or neckwears, presumably the way they kind of showed their identity, that all of them were in the same clan or tribe. The slaves were completely naked. They didn't even have shoes on, only carrying a collar chained to poles or to the wagon. The soldiers marched carrying spears and clubs. The first wagon passed, then the second one, which was mostly soldiers and a few slaves. The last one passes, this time with slave women in similar conditions. The man and the boy stay silent and still for what seems like hours, still remembering what happened last time they encountered a group. But eventually, they get up and continue, only to be presented by worse news. It's beginning to snow. And so for the next few hours and days, they move slowly, freezing and starving. The father's condition is getting worse, coughing up more and more blood, but trying to hide it from the sun. The trees around them crash to the floor from the weight of the snow, definitely not helped by them being burnt and brittle from the fires. But without any choice, they have to keep moving forward. The father knows they need to find food too, because the cold is making them waste more energy to stay warm. And with this, their slow speed will kill them. They reach the end of the orchard, the apple field or tree field, and thankfully the snow seems to still be light enough to mostly melt by midday. And they find a plantation house, another clue telling us this takes place in the the Texas South, and decide to check it out out of desperation. They ransack the enormous house, but they don't find anything of use. As hope seems lost, the father finds his cellar room, locked and hidden. He gets a spade from the outside and begins bashing the lock in. 1 hit, 2 hits, 3 hits. Then, luckily on the fourth hit, the lock splits open. The boy and the man stand looking at the cellar. The boy is scared and asks to leave it alone, but the father turns on his lighter and says they have to check it out to see if there's any food. They go down the stairs and are hit by a foul smell, but continue to walk before they hear chains rattle. The boy hugs the father, and the man stretches out his arm with the lighter as a torch, before seeing a content warning. Please skip a minute forward if you want to skip this. It's a very gruesome scene as well. They see half a dozen humans in the cellar, chained and naked. Some of them are amputated, laying helplessly on a spoiled mattress. The boy and the man freeze in shock, and for the first time in the story, the man begins to curse. Jesus Christ. Oh God, Jesus Christ, the man repeats over and over again. The boy is speechless and begins to cry, before they turn and begin to run out of the cellar. The chained humans yell out, begging to be freed. They plead, saying that the cannibals keep them in the cellar and are eating them limb by limb, but they are ignored by the man. The man dragging the boy runs out of the house before seeing 4 men and 2 women come into the house carrying gear and rifles. They run and hide under a dirt mound, or besides a dirt mound, not wanting to continue running in fear of being seen. The footsteps get louder. The boy begins to cry, terrified. The man hugs and shushes the boy before handing him the weapon himself. He told the boy what to do if they were ever caught, to turn the weapon on himself. But when he sees the pale, thin boy, he can't bring himself to let him use the weapon. He looked down at him, and all he saw was terror. He took the gun from him. "No, you don't," he said. "I don't know what to do. Will you be there?" "I promise." "You promise?" "Yes, I promise. I was going to run, to try to lead them away. But I can't leave you. The man hugs the boy instead, their hearts racing, and the man begins thinking up to himself. Can you do it? When the time comes, there will be no time. Now is the time. Curse God and die. What if it doesn't fire? But it has to fire. But what if it doesn't? Could you crush that beloved skull with a rock? Is there such a being within you, which you know nothing of? The footsteps get louder and louder, then suddenly, they stop. Then slowly, the footsteps begin to fade away. They stay there the entire day, hugging and shaking. Only at night, with the screams and shrieks coming from the cellar of the house, they run into the darkness, and eventually down the road again, left with nothing but their hunger and fear. This past section wasn't made just for shock value. I mean, it most definitely is shocking, but it was primarily made to answer an ethical question of the world in the road. We mentioned how the world in the road is dead, there being no sure way of having regenerative resources. Everyone is forced to raid or scavenge for resources. We see the situation this puts people in. Like the man and the boy, if you lose your food or clothes and aren't able to scavenge for some new ones fast enough, you'll starve to death. With this in mind, this section addresses a very important problem in this world. What lengths would you go to as a person for self-preservation? Of course, there are small examples of this, like are you willing to steal to feed yourself? Are you willing to fight or to kill? But the world of the road takes it one step further. Are you willing to exchange your morals and virtues and humanity to stay alive? All the raiders and hunters we've seen so far show evidence of either cannibalism or slavery, if not both, going from stealing and hurting others for their own benefit, instead to killing and cannibalizing to keep themselves alive. The hunters like this take it one step further by farming people, not like the raiders, which are just opportunistic, rather keeping others alive simply to keep using them as food. The man and the boy are in a sharp contrast to this. Everyone, including them, are fighting to stay alive, but while trying to stay alive, they still won't cross or betray their morals and humanity, no matter the cost. Some other small details that I want to add are all the countless references to Christianity or God in the book. The boy being called the Word of God, which could be a reference to John chapter 1, where Jesus himself is called the Word. He says that in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. Maybe a play on how the boy is seen as the only pure person in the world of wickedness, similar to Jesus Christ. Again, the father calls themselves the quote-unquote last embers of Christendom. Christendom is just like Christianity. And probably the most important to this scene is when contemplating on ending the boy's life to spare him from whatever the hunters would do to him. Loud car. He references the book of Job in the Old Testament. I know it sounds like the book of Job, but it's not, it's the book of Job. That's how you pronounce it. Can you do it? When the time comes, there will be no time. Now is the time. Curse God and die. The words curse God and die are famously used in the book of Job by Job's wife, as he lays in a pile of ash, rotting away due to his leprosy or skin condition. The book of Job is very interesting in of itself, but I cannot get too into it without straying too far away from the road. So I'll just give a short summary instead. In the book of Job, we see the story of a man named Job. It's still uncertain if the book is a piece of literature, it is like right next to all the other literature books of the Bible, or if it's supposed to be taken historical in the Bible. In the story, the devil torments a loyal Christian named Job. He kills his children, lets his farms be burnt, animals killed, and servants massacred. Eventually, Job gets leprosy, or some sort of flesh disease, which starts rotting his flesh away while he's still alive. All this was done to Job in order for him to reject God, to abandon his morals. The central message being, when all goes wrong in your life, are you still willing to stay with God, or will you reject him to save yours, or save your life? Similar to a road, Job, in his suffering, questions and cries out to God in frustration. But still, he stays loyal to his beliefs and morality. His wife, on the other hand, rejects God because of their situation. She leaves Job, but before she does this, she tries to convince Job to do the same. In Job chapter 2, verse 9, it says, his wife said to him, "Are you still maintaining your integrity? Curse God and die." She tells him that just to reject God and, to die and end his misery. Even though Job responds to her telling her that she's not thinking straight and she needs to persevere through the bad the same way they live through the good, even though God provides, the woman still doesn't see it and eventually leaves Job, leaving Job suffering by himself, and then later on he's joined by 3 friends. As you can see, there's a lot of meaning and depth to the words and action that Cormac McCarthy uses. The entire scene is presented showing the depravity of the world and the rejection of God and humanity. And I'm sure I missed a bunch of other references and meanings, but I'm only providing the ones that I either know or I know and think are important enough for me to add to this, to this video. Still, the man and the boy continue on, and there's a quote that the man and the boy keep repeating, saying that they're quote unquote the good guys, and that they carry the flame, or they carry the fire. And in a freezing world, even if everyone abandons their hope and morality, they won't, and would rather die together than extinguish that fire that keeps them warm. Back to the story, the boy and the man are too weak to continue traveling. They can't travel more than a couple miles a day, and eventually the boy begins to sleep longer and longer. During one of these naps, or these long naps, the father gets up, and he knows that if they don't find anything to eat soon, they won't make it past this week. And so, leaving the revolver with his son, we know why, he goes out walking alone, coughing up blood and wheezing as he goes. The man stumbles into a field of burnt trees. Staring off into the field, he sees nothing. He assumes that all livestock is probably dead, all the horses, cows, chicken, goats. But in his despair, he sees something, a small mound from the charred earth. He kneels down and uncovers it, a small, dried, flat thing. Not too sure what it is, but he looks around to try to figure out what it is, and he looks at the trees, the burnt apple trees. What he found there were dried apples, or dried remains of apples. Probably due to the fires, they fell and dried before they were able to properly rot. The man in his desperation bites into it. It's dry and tasteless, but it's still edible. And so he eats it, and he eats fast and desperate, even eating the pit before dropping to his knees and moving aside the dried grass and thick coat of ash to look for more. He finds several more all throughout the field. Matter of fact, he has to go to a nearby barn to find a broken but still usable container so he can bring them all in. And with the sudden energy of eating for the first time in weeks, he sits in the bar thinking of what else he could bring to the boy, when he gets an idea. He goes to the pipe system of the barn and begins to dig, removing the ash and filtering rocks or gravel. And eventually he finds the pipes, and he cracks them open and finds water. Maybe not 100% sanitary, but it's still water, and clear water at that, the gravel helping filter the water. He gets some mason jars that he found around the barn and starts filling them slowly, one by one. And with a belly swollen of apples and water, he goes back to his son. The man wakes up the boy, and they begin to eat. He even gets an old packet of grape Kool-Aid and makes some juice for the boy with the fresh water. And for a moment, the world seems a lot less cruel than it really is, as they huddle together, eating apples and drinking juice. Mind you, in any other context, this would just be a normal picnic. A man and his son, eating apples and drinking Kool-Aid isn't really all that exciting. But here, in the context of the world of the road, on the dead world of the road, it's like something unthinkable. Being able to eat something organic with clean water and juice, it shows some sort of like divine intervention of whatever's taking care of them, making sure that they feel good at this moment, right? They're able to recover fairly. It's a scene or an act of perseverance throughout the cruelty of the world. But here it's a life-saving scene, one that without, the book could have, very well ended here, halfway through the book. Not even halfway, it's like 1/3 of the way there. While resting from the journey, the boy asked the father something. The boy lay with his head on the man's lap. After a while, he said, "They were going to kill those people, weren't they?" "Yes," said the father. "Why do they have to do that?" "I don't know." "Are they going to eat them?" "I don't know." "They're going to eat them, aren't they?" "Yes." "And we couldn't help them because they'd eat us too." "Yes." "And that's why we couldn't help them." "Yes." "Okay," said the boy. Later that evening, they have another conversation. The man turned and looked. He looked like he'd been crying. Just tell me. We wouldn't ever eat anybody, would we? No, of course not. Even if we were starving? We're starving now. But you said we weren't. I said we weren't dying. I didn't say we weren't starving. But no, we wouldn't. No matter what? No. No matter what. Because we're the good guys. Yes, said the man. And we're carrying the fire. And we're carrying the fire. Okay. The dialogue in the road is kind of, I don't want to say weird, but it is kind of yeah, I guess weird. Kind of unorthodox. It sounds kind of weird when somebody's trying to read out loud, but when you're reading it, it's like, whoa, this is such a banger. So you should read the book. Watch the movie too. The movie is free on YouTube now. No? You know, I've been trying to make this video for so long that this popular YouTuber, I don't really watch him a lot, but I know about him, called Wendigoon. He released a video that he was making on the road. And I've been working 4 weeks on this video before that, and then he released his I started working on mine 4 weeks later. He released his video, and I was like, dang, that's crazy. Like, he's been working on it way longer than I have. And I'm still working on it. And today, the day I'm recording this, was this June 20th. That same guy released the entire movie free on YouTube. That's how long I've been working on this video. This video is like, it hit the mainstream. I mean, it was already mainstream, but it hit like the Omega mainstream or whatever on YouTube, like, while I was still working on this. It's been months me trying to make this video, and it's still not gonna really come out that well. Or maybe it is. Maybe you're like, whoa, this is such a banger video. Whatever. But you should, I don't know, just do what you want to do, you know? Because I've been working on this for forever, and I'm still gonna try to do it because I like it, and I like talking about the interests that like. Tangent over. Yep. You can begin to see more clearly how the boy is presented to reflect the quote-unquote word of God. No matter the cruelty they go through in the world, the boy faces it with love and kindness. The man perseveres, not through a hope of a better world, but simply to care for the boy. But the boy, on the other hand, perseveres because of a more simpler hope. Hope of finding a friend. The hope of playing cards with his dad. The hope of one day seeing the ocean or seeing the blue sky. And while hoping, they make sure not to abandon their morality. They can make life easier, but still, it's not the life they want to live if they have to abandon their humanity to achieve this hope of surviving. This next scene is probably my favorite part in the entire book, and I don't know, I really like this part, seeing like the doom of everything, and then getting to this part, I remember smiling for hours, and like, I think I even prayed. I was like, oh, thank you God for letting this happen to this fictional book with these fictional characters. I don't know, I'm not really emotional, but when I read this book was like, whoa, it changed my life. This is a really banger book. I'm sure he's made other books. Maybe some other ones are rated better. By him, I mean Cormac McCarthy. But I don't know. This is the first one I've read, and it really changed my life. I was like, whoa, this is crazy. I keep going on tangents. Whatever. This is going to be back to the story. Now, with a bit more resources, those being the shriveled dry apples and the drain water, the man and the boy continue their journey down the road. They go through more dead houses and towns, but there's nothing in store for them. But at some point, while going through an old house, they find a couple resources. Nothing more than a couple ounces of gas and some tools. It's not a lot, but don't get me wrong, it's still something, you know? And while walking across the backyard, the man feels something. Something hollow. Leaving the boy sitting across from him, he gets a spade from the shed and begins digging. And eventually, he hits something. Wood. Clearing away the dirt, he reveals a cellar door. And the boy, seeing this, gets scared and begs for the man to go. Don't open it, Papa, he whispered. Oh, don't open it, I said, whispered. Like, don't open it, Papa, he whispered. It's okay. Please, Papa, please don't open it. No, it's okay, said the man. No, it's not. He had his fist clutched to his chest and he was bobbing up and down with fear. The man dropped the shovel and put his arms around him. Come on, he said. Let's just go sit on the porch and rest a while. The boy is justifiably traumatized from days ago when the cannibals having the humans locked in the cellar, and doesn't want to go anywhere near the cellar now. But the man tries to explain that even though they look like the same door, they won't find anyone buried there. The man begins bashing the door, and eventually he opens the lock. He calls for the boy to help him, but the boy doesn't want to. But eventually the man convinces him. I'll hold the lamp, said the boy. Okay. This is what good guys do. They keep trying, and they don't give up, said the man. The man enters the bunker first. Holding out his pistol, or his revolver, sorry, while going down the stairs, lit by the boy's lamp. Then, after some silence, he calls out for the boy. The man cries out to the boy. The boy, scared, asks what it is, but the man doesn't say anything, just repeating, "Oh my God," and "come down," over and over and over again. When the boy walks into the bunker, he sees crates upon crates of canned goods. Tomatoes, peaches, beans, apricots, corned beef, ham, hundreds of gallons of water bottles in plastic jerry jugs, paper towels, toilet paper, plastic bags, blankets. The man holds his forehead in his hand. "Oh my God," he continues saying. In the very last days, before starving again, the man, in the luck of fate, or maybe a miracle of the divine, finds a bunker. And not just any bunker, but one we could assume to be a prepper's. Food rations, water gallons, paper hygiene products, plastic trash bags, and even blankets. The man and the boy go inside, and for the first time in God knows how long, the man is able to ask the boy, "What do you want to eat?" And with that, the man and the boy sit down and eat some pears for dinner, just as the boy asked for. This is probably the most beautiful scene of the book, or at least, so far. With the man and the boy being able to spend a couple days in the bunker, and they sleep warm due to the lamps. The boy and the man awaken to the smell of food. The man cooked some coffee, or brewed some coffee, cooked biscuits with some bacon and gravy. And for the first time probably in the boy's life, he's able to have a warm shower, with the man warming the water with the lamps. The water ran black, with all the filth coating the boy and the man. And after the first shower in many years, the man gets some scissors and cuts his hair, and the boy's hair. The man stares at the boy for a while, then he stares into a mirror, and he couldn't ignore how alien they look. Nothing more than skin and bones, wide-eyed. But in this very moment, this was the very least of their thoughts, seeing all the food around them. And so, the man, ignoring their looks, went on to cook more food. The boy was able to experience a lot more of the food of the old world. All the new sensations, the sweet canned fruit, the savory meat, the bitter warm coffee, the soft fluffy blankets, bouncy mattresses, and warm clear water. The man was so excited that he was just enjoying what they could, but still the boy seemed kind of uneasy. "What is it?" asked the man. "Do you think that we should thank the people?" "The people?" "Yeah, the people who gave us all this." "Well, yes, I guess we could do that." "Will you do it?" "Why don't you?" said the man. "I don't know how." "Yes, you do. You know how to say thank you." The boy sat staring at his plate. He seemed lost. The man was about to speak when the boy said, "Dear people, thank you for all this food and stuff. We know that you saved it for yourself, and if you were here, we wouldn't eat it, no matter how hungry we were. And we're sorry that you didn't get to eat it. And we hope that you're safe in heaven, with God." He looked up. "Is that okay?" asked the boy. "Yes, I think that's okay," answered the man. It's such a beautiful scene. The boy, even though he was starving, even though all the bad stuff he's gone through, is still uneasy about quote-unquote stealing food, and asked to do a prayer for the, giving thanks to God and for the people who left this food for them. Even saying that if they were still here, they wouldn't steal the food, no matter how hungry they were. Which is, I don't know, just like, it's a pretty heartful scene. The man continues collecting supplies and takes inventory. They've been in the bunker for maybe 2 to 3 days. There's ammunition, but there's none for his revolver, mostly for a 30-30 gun. Why is my quill crying? Hold up, let me go check on my quill. Alright, I just checked up on him. I don't know, no idea what he wanted. Then he just cried, and I look over there and there was like nothing. Whatever. But because the man isn't able to find any ammunition for his revolver, he carves some wooden bullets and dyes them gray using the silts and all the ash that's outside, so it makes it look like the revolver has more than one bullet. They sleep there a couple more nights. They get new clothing, new shoes, and the man gets a wheelbarrow from outside, so they're able to transfer all their supplies. I mean, they both don't want to leave the bunker, but the man knows that winter is coming, and even with all this stuff and resources, the bunker couldn't protect them from the cold and raiders forever. And so, after spending a couple nights and a couple days in the bunker, the man takes a last tour of all the supplies they have. He turned down the lamp until the flame was puttering out, and he kissed the boy, and crawled into the other bunk under the clean blankets, and gazed one more time at the tiny paradise before the trembling orange light from the healer turned off. Then he fell asleep. Again, this is such a beautiful scene. We see the last moments of hope. In their last moments of hope, the universe, fate, or God blesses them with what they need the most. And this time it's above and beyond. Not only the bare basics to continue going forward, but probably the most comfortable anyone at this time is, ever living or ever experienced. We also get a very touching part of the boy thanking, like I mentioned, thanking the people for leaving the food here, thanking God, and saying that no matter how, starving they were, they wouldn't stoop low enough to steal from other people. And with that, they leave for the road once again. We don't get another cute scene like this with the man and the boy, but they do continue walking. Actually, they do get a pretty funny scene. I might mention it's not really important, but I think it's a pretty cool, funny scene. "Do you know where we're going, Papa?" the boy asked. Sort of," said the man. "How sort of?" "Well, I think we're about 200 miles from the coast, as the crow flies." "As the crow flies?" "Yes, it means going in straight lines." "Are we going to get there soon?" "Well, not real soon, but pretty soon. We're not going as the crow flies. Because crows don't follow the road." "Yup. And they can go wherever they want." "Yup," said the man. "Could they fly to Mars or someplace?" "No, they couldn't. Because it's too far." "Yes," said the man. "Even if they wanted to?" "Even if they wanted to," said the man. "What if they tried? Would they just go halfway or something? Or then they would be too tired? Would they fall back down?" "Well," said the man, "they really couldn't get halfway there because they'd be in space, and there's not any air in space, so they wouldn't be able to fly. And besides, it would be too cold, and they'd freeze to death." "Oh," said the boy. Anyways, they wouldn't know where Mars was. Do we know where Mars is? Sort of. If we had a spaceship, could we go there? Well, if we had a really good spaceship, and you had people to help you, I suppose you could go there. Would there be food and stuff when you get there? No, there's nothing there. Oh, said the boy. After a while, the boy asked, "There's not any crows, are there?" No. Just in the books? Yes, just in the books. I didn't think so, said the boy. It's not that much of an important conversation, but it's still nice to see the man and the boy, after replenishing their supplies and clothes, being able to have a silly conversation about crows going to Mars. But it also reminds us that there is no distant paradise. Like, it's a tough pill to swallow, but there is no plan to reach another planet, no water purifier to start, no settlement to reach. It's just them and their burnt worlds, with or without crows. I know this video is running a bit long, so I'm only going to mention a couple more events before we get to the ends. My script is almost like it's like 2/3 of the way done, probably a little less than 2/3. So I'm just try to keep going, finish this up so you guys can. This whole video is just like a little introduction, a little sneak peek into the road, so you guys are able to read it or watch the movie, because it's a pretty good thing. You should support Cormac McCarthy and his works. Later on, while continuing down the road, they meet an old man while traveling. Calling the old man a tragedy is a great understatement. He basically has no shoes on. His hair is twisted and clumped, broken teeth with a cloth covering his jaw, carrying only a military backpack and a cane. At first, the two think that it might be a trap, somebody having like a prey that looks vulnerable, and then when they close in, they'll be jumped. But as they close in, they figure out that he's harmless. The old man kind of sees them, but says he's blind, and offers them to look in his bag and confirm that he doesn't have anything for them to rob, but they refuse. The father is curious, but decides to leave him alone. But while they're leaving, the boy eventually convinces the father to help him, and begrudgingly the man accepts. The old man says his name is Eli, but within a couple of lines, he contradicts himself, saying that that's not his actual name, and whatever he tells them is mostly just made up stuff. It never tells us why he doesn't want to give them their true name. He just says that it holds too much power. And so, for the night, they sit in silence around the campfire. Eli eats one of the cans that was given to him by the boy, as the man watches him intently. The man reiterates that they're only helping Eli because the boy wanted to, and they will not come along with them. Eli agrees, saying that it isn't his lifestyle either way. He's a roaming beggar, not part of a pack or a group. The only reason he's still alive right now is because of the pity of other people who had given him food before, and by having to do unspeakable things to stay fed. The man continues questioning Eli, which I'll continue calling him that even though it's not his name, asking him who gave him food and what direction the people were going, etc., etc. But Eli doesn't really answer none of this. The man and Eli begin to have a deep conversation about the boy, and the world, and death. "Do you wish you would die?" the man asked. "No, but I might wish I had died. When you're alive, you always got that ahead of you," answered the Eli. "Or you might have wished you had never been born." "Well, beggars can't be choosers." "You think that's too much to ask for?" asked the man. "Well, what's done is done. Anyway, it's foolish to ask for luxuries in times like these." "I guess so," said the man. Eli looks at the man, then he looks at the boy, wondering what horrors both of them had seen, what horrors the boy had seen, and how even through all this, the boy still offered to help Eli. "How would you know if you were the last man on earth?" asked the man. "I don't guess you would know it, you'd just be it," answered Eli. "Nobody would know it. It wouldn't make any difference. When you die, it's the same as if everybody else died too. I guess God would know it. Isn't that it?" "There is no God." "No?" reclaimed the man. "There is no God, and we are his prophets. I have not seen a fire in a long time, that's all. I've lived like an animal. You don't want to know the things I've eaten. When I saw the boy, I thought I had died." "You thought you saw an angel?" asked the man. "I didn't know what he was. I never thought to see a child again. I didn't know that would happen. What if I said he's a god?" The old man shook his head. "I'm past all that now. Have been for years. Where men can't live, gods fare no better. You'll see. It's better to be alone." "So I hope that's not true, what you said, because to be on the road with the last god ever would be a terrible, terrible thing. So I hope it's not true. Things will be better when everybody's gone." "Will they?" asked the man. "Sure, they will." The three sit in silence for a moment, before deciding to sleep. In the morning, they pack up everything, and against the boy's wishes, the man does not take Eli with them, but does give him some food for their journey. And with that, they part ways, and for the first time in the entire book, the man and the boy meet another person, and it doesn't end with death and gore. The man is very weak now. He wakes up coughing more and more blood, shaking in the night. At night, he tries to hold back his wheezes, but he knows that this isn't a good sign. As they camp one night near the woods, the man wakes up and sees the boy isn't with him. But before he panics, he sees the boy coming down from the forest. He saw the boy coming at a run across the fields. "Papa," he called, "there's a train in the woods." "A train?" "Yes." "A real train." "Yes, come on." "You didn't go up to it, did you?" "No." "Just a little. Come on." "There's nobody there?" "No, I don't think so." "I came to get you." "Is there an engine?" "Yeah, a big diesel one." They look at the dead train, snaking down the tracks, and they look at it for a while, before deciding to investigate. It's been long abandoned, some suitcases and evidence of people were in the cabs, but it's all covered in ash, untouched in the months or years maybe. And so, without finding any supplies, the man and the boy just sit there in the train. The boy wondering how such a creation will work and run, before they decide it's best to keep moving forward. They leave the area, passing by carvings and writings on the rocks and walls, other people's writings, which was common up north, but slowly became more and more scarce as they went down. Usually these were writings to loved ones, or writings about hopelessness, pleas for help. Maybe the people on the train wrote these once the train ran out of fuel, but who knows. "There are other good guys. You said so." "Yes," said the man. "So where are they?" "They're hiding." "Who are they hiding from?" "From each other." "Are there a lot of them?" "We don't know, but some." Some, yes. Is that true? Yes, I think it's true. But it might not be true. I think it's true. Okay, said the boy. You don't believe me, do you? I believe you. Okay. I always believe you. I don't think so. Yes, I do. I have to, said the boy. Okay, speedrun. We'll start going through all these events faster and faster. I'm a bit over 2/3 of the done with the video. They carry on, but the man's health gets worse, catching a fever which holds him down from traveling for a couple days. The man is in terrible shape, alien-like body being so skinny from the lack of food and illness. He has diarrhea and can't walk without using the cart as support. But nonetheless, he needs to care for the boy. As they walk, they come across a couple miles that were hit by some sort of heat or fire during the apocalypse. First, it's melted tar. Cars and supplies melted into amalgamations across the road. The heat that melted them into the ground is long gone, with the winter getting closer and closer. Further up the street, they find the people, affected by the fire. Their bodies and faces contorted in agony, clinging onto the possessions or crawling out of the road. And for the first time, the boy doesn't close his eyes. It's okay, Papa. It's okay? Asked the man. They're already there. I don't want you to look though. They'll still be there, said the boy. He stopped and leaned on the cart. He looked down the road and he looked down at the boy, so strangely untroubled. Since the beginning of the book, the boy had always been weary and fearful of the world and its cruelty. But now, like mentioned by Eli, with all the horrors those wide eyes had seen, it seems that he accepted the world as it is. This makes the man uneasy. The good in the world, the divine hope, the fire, is becoming numb to the pain and death around him. This could be him adapting to live in the world around him, but it could also cost the boy his humanity, and his empathy, and thus his love. We get the most grotesque part of the book now, almost as if the world around him, seeing the boy become numb to the cruelty, decides to remind us of the true horrors of this dead world. The man and the boy happen upon a small group, 2 men and a woman who was pregnant, but scare them away with the gun. Content warning next. If you're very squeamish, if you don't like gruesome things, skip over maybe like a minute. Yeah, I'd say like skip over a minute. Later on, a couple days down the road, as the man recovers from his fever but is still weak, they see a small campfire. Deciding to investigate, they see the group once again, but the woman is no longer pregnant. Sadly, the group runs away at the sound of them coming near. Once reaching the campfire, the boy buries his head into the man's body and begins to cry. The man raises his weapon before sadly putting the pistol down. The boy cries as his father apologizes and leads him away from the campfire, something roasting in the flames. They sat and rested and drank the last of their good water and left the plastic jerry jug standing in the road. The boy asked, "If we had that little baby, it could go with us, right?" "Yes, it could," answered the man. "Where did they find it?" He didn't answer. "Could there be another one somewhere?" "I don't know. It's possible," said the man. I don't think I really have to explain what happened or what they encountered, but whatever did happen, leave it up to your imagination or if you read the book. But we do know that it reminded the boy of the horrors of the world and the cruelty of the world they live in. That same day, while walking down the road, the boy talks to the man. "I'm sorry about what I said about those people." "What people?" asked the man. "Those people that got burned up, that they were stuck in the road and got burned up. I didn't know you said anything bad." "It wasn't bad. Can we go now?" "Okay," said the man. The boy reflected on his way of thought. It's not good enough to acknowledge the death of the world. He apologized for the indifference he had began to develop towards the victims of cruelty. He apologizes for not having reverence for the dead in the street, and thinks to himself that he would care for the child. This is similar to the way the boy reacted when he saw the boy in the burnt city and the dog. If only he had the baby, he would do everything to care for it, and show that love this cruel world never gave it. The story continues, and the two move forward, and a couple days later, when they turn the road, there it is, the beach. They take off their hoods to see and smell better, but there's nothing to look at. The man could see the disappointment in his face. "I'm sorry it's not blue," he said. "That's okay," said the boy. An hour later, they're sitting on the beach, staring out into the wall of smog across the horizon. They sat with their heels dug into the sand, watched the bleak sea wash up to their feet, cold, desolate, and birdless. The main destination, besides simply going south, was right in front of them. The promised beach that the man promised the boy, that swayed and rolled in front of them. But there wasn't any joy. The skies were light gray, the water ash black, not even able to see the horizon because of the smog. And they just stand there, looking at it. This is the final nail on this coffin of a world. Truly, there is no hope for bettering this world. There's no water, no animals, nor salvation. "Do you think there could be any ships out there?" "I don't think so," said the man. "They wouldn't be able to see very far." "No, they wouldn't." "What's on the other side?" "Nothing," answered the man. "Well, there must be something. Maybe there's a father and his little boy, and they're sitting on the beach." "That would be okay," said the boy. "Yes, that would be okay." "And they could be carrying the fire too." "Yes, they could be. But we don't know." "No, we don't know," said the man. They wander about for a bit before making the best of their situation by going for a swim. The man sat at the shore and made a campfire, looking at the boy. A sad sight in any context. A pale white child, his bones creating a skeletal frame over his skin, leaping and playing on the rolling waves of the dark grey ocean. But in this moment, it's relief from the world. Not much else happens on the beach. For a couple days they camp there. The man finds a stranded yacht, which he raids by himself, finding a medkit, a flare gun with a couple rounds. They find other assortments of supplies like sea lights and books in Spanish that are of little use now. But to make the best of the situation, the boy and the man decide to use the flare. It's reckless, yes, but maybe the bright red flame can entertain them for a while. So, at night, huddled together, they shoot it straight up into the sky and watch as the bright red flame cuts through the darkness and brightens the world around them, if only for a moment. Maybe it represents them, a burning flame being swallowed up by the abyss of darkness, but still shining bright for the little time it has left. "Where do you think the people went, Papa?" "That were on the ship?" "Yes." "I don't know." "Do you think they're dead?" "I don't know," said the man. "But the odds are not in their favor." The man smiled. "The odds are not in their favor." "No." "Are they?" "No, probably not." "I think they died," said the boy. "Maybe they did. I think that's what happened to them." "They could be alive somewhere," the man said. "It's possible." The boy didn't answer. Sadly, because of the climate and the lack of food, the boy catches a fever as well, and they're forced to stay camped there for a couple more days as the father uses the basic supplies in the medkit to heal the boy. This works, and the boy recovers after a couple days. But tragedy hits them again. When they were gathering more supplies, they come back to find their camp supplies missing. Their cart, their tarp, and all their supplies are gone. The only thing they have is the clothes on the back and the nickel-plated revolver. Angrily, the man grabs the boy in one hand and the nickel-plated revolver in the other, and begin to trace the footprints in the sand, and eventually the sand on the road to find the culprit. The boy begins to cry. They begin to run, but almost immediately the man begins to cough up blood. Leaning over the cart, he looks at the boy wheezing, saying, "We have to walk. If they hear us, they'll hide in the side of the road." This was just an excuse for the boy not to see the man coughing up blood. "Come on," said the man. "How many are there, Papa?" "I don't know, maybe just one." "Are we going to kill him?" "I don't know." Before dusk, they find the cart, being carried off by a singular man. He tried to run off with the cart, but when he saw it was useless, he stopped and pulled out a butcher's knife, ready to fight. The man brandished his revolver, and the robber, hesitated before backing off, still holding onto the butcher's knife. The thief was raggedy. He was missing all his fingers of his right hand, and his clothes stink. There was silence, just the sound of the wind rolling down the sands, before the man cocked the revolver. "If you don't put down the knife and get away from the cart," the man said, "I'm going to blow your brains out." The thief looked at the child, and what he saw was very sobering to him. He laid the knife down on the top of the blankets and backed away and stood. "Back! More," said the man. He stepped back again. "Papa," the boy said, "be quiet." He kept his eyes on the thief. "God damn you," he said. "Papa, please don't kill the man." The thief's eyes swung wildly. The boy began to cry. "Come on, man. I've done what you said. Listen to the boy. Take off your clothes." "What?" asked the thief. "Take them off. Every goddamn stitch. Come on, man. Don't do this. I'll kill you where you stand. Don't do this, man. I won't tell you again." Alright. Just take it easy." He stripped slowly and piled the vile rags on the road. The man held the thief at gunpoint, making sure he gave him every single piece of supplies he had, from his clothes to his shoes. The thief desperately looked at the boy who was crying, covering his ears and looking away. "I'm begging you, Papa," the boy said. "Come on, man, listen to the kid," said the thief. "You tried to kill us. I'm starving, man. You have done the same. You took everything. Come on, man, I'll die. I'm going to leave you just the way you left us. Come on, man, I'm begging you." He pulled the cart bag and swung it around, and put the pistol on top of it and looked at the boy. "Let's go," he said. And they set out along the road south, with the boy crying and looking back at the nude, slat-like creature standing there in the road, shivering and hugging himself. The boy sobbed. "He's just hungry, Papa. He's going to die." "He's going to die anyway," said the man. "He's so scared, Papa." The man squatted and looked at him. "I'm scared," he said. "Do you understand? I'm scared." The boy didn't answer. He just sat there with his head bowed, sobbing. "You're not the one who has to worry about everything." The boy said something, but the man couldn't understand him. "What?" he said. He looked up, his wet and grimy face. "Yes, I am," said the boy. "I am the one." This conversation finally sobered up the man. In the heat of anger, he condemned the thief to death, not with the bullet, but with the world. The man turned the cart around, but the thief was gone. The boy yelled and cried out for him, but no one answered. Eventually, they leave his clothes and supplies in a pile next to the road, before continuing down south. The boy, even when people steal from him, only wants to help. He begged and cried not to kill the thief, then pleaded his case to not let him starve. Sadly, the man in his anger couldn't reverse his actions. The story comes to a conclusion in the next couple events. So, spoilers, please read the book and watch the movie, or both, or one or the other. But I'm going to say the ending here. Not right now, but within the next couple, 5 minutes. Continuing down, the man and the boy make amends and keep motivating each other to keep going. They go through a small resort town, which confirms they reach Mexico. We already got some clues to this when they raided the yacht and the books were in Spanish. The tourist shops, books, and signs in Spanish are clear-cut signs that they are in Mexico. The man keeps finding arrowheads and trinkets, which he tries to give to the boy, but the boy seems uninterested, maybe maturing past all that. They continue down the street when suddenly they hear a whiz and a clatter next to them. The boy and the man are confused. Then suddenly, the man, understanding what happens, throws himself on top of the boy, just as he sees the object fall to the floor, an arrow. Before he has time to react to get the gun, another arrow cuts through the air and hits his leg. But this time, he saw where the arrow came from a shop across the street. He clawed the blankets to one side and lunged and grabbed the flare gun and raised it up and cocked it, resting his arm on the side of the cart. The boy was clinging to him. When the archer finally stepped back into the frame of the window to draw the bow again, the man fired. The flame went rocketing up towards the window in a whiz and a long white arc. Then they could hear the man screaming. He grabbed the boy and pushed him down and dragged the blankets on top of him. "Don't move," the man said. "Don't move and don't look." The man reloads the flare gun and rushes to the house, limping, leaving a huge trail of blood behind. He levels the gun and goes inside it to the second story. He finds an old woman, gray hair squatted over a man, covering his breathing burnt body with her coat. The old woman doesn't answer the questions of the man, who's asking who she is, how many people are with them, where the man go, or where the bow is. Instead, she just stays there quietly, comforting the burnt man, who's still alive, mind you, but is badly burnt. The sound of the breath of the burnt archer, the splatter of blood of the man, is all the noise you can hear in the room. And the man decides to spare her and go back down himself. He takes the boy and goes to another building, trying to heal himself. The arrow had cut a gash just above his knee, about 3 inches long. It was still bleeding and his whole upper leg was discolored, and he could see that the cut was deep. The arrowhead was some sort of broadhead, beaten out of an old spoon, and God knows what else. He looked at the boy. "See if you can find a first aid kit," he said. The boy didn't move. "Get to the first aid kit. Damn it, don't just sit there." The boy jumped up and went to the door and began digging under the carp and the blankets piled in the car. He looked back, the carts. He came back with the kit and gave it to the man, who took it and without comment set it on the concrete floor. The man, through gritted teeth and groans, is able to get the arrowhead out, and with the help of the boy, he's able to stop the bleeding, but he isn't in good shape. "I'm sorry I yelled at you," said the man. The boy looked up. "It's okay, Papa. Let's start over." "Okay." They barely recover. The man can only slowly limp around, and so he decides to set up camp there for a couple days. His leg is infected, swollen, and the loss of blood was too great. They try to comfort each other, but it's a pretty dire situation. The man asked the boy if he could tell him a story, anything to distract the boy from the implications that he was dying. "You have stories inside you that I don't know about." "You mean like dreams?" asked the boy. "Yes, like dreams. Or just things that you think about." "Yeah, but those stories are supposed to be happy." "They don't have to be," said the man. "You always tell happy stories." "You don't have any happy ones?" "No, they're more like real life." "But my stories are not." "No, your stories are not." "No." The man watched him. "Real life is pretty bad, huh?" "What do you think?" "Well, I think we're still here. A lot of bad things happen, but we're still here," said the man. "Yeah. You don't think that's so great?" "It's okay," answered the boy. They muster up enough energy to keep moving. Slowly, almost at a snail's pace, only a couple miles a day. The man growing weaker and weaker from the injury to his leg and his coughing, and he's not getting any better. Eventually, they reach another small town. Nothing of use. Then they reach the countryside, and a broken bridge, which tells them that their journey on the road has come to a close. The man lost almost all his strength, decided on making knapsacks and carrying only the essential supplies, leaving the cart on the road. The boy says that he could push his dad and the cart at the same time, but the man refuses, saying that it's too much energy he's going to be wasting. The man decides it's best to cut through the countryside to see if they can continue going south down the road, and so they make camp on the side of the road. This is the last time the father gets up. The man is bedridden now, only wheezing and coughing in the makeshift camp. When they eat, the man doesn't eat any food, telling the boy to eat it all for himself. He can't bear to eat any resources or food, knowing that the boy could make better use of it. The boy promises to save his half of the food for later. All they have is a singular can of peaches. As the man lays on the side of the road, he takes the hand of the boy and says, "You need to go on. I can't go with you. You need to keep going. You don't know what might be down the road. We were always lucky, and you'll be lucky again. You'll see. Just go. Do everything just the way we did it." I don't want to say the entire conversation, just because it doesn't really have the same impact if I just say it. Plus, I'm not really that good at, acting out the conversation. But the gist of it is that the father, while dying, there sleeping next to the boy, talks to the boy, telling him to keep going forward, to keep enduring and keep being good in the world. But the boy just can't let go. The man just keeps comforting the boy, telling him that he can't come with him, and that he knows where the fire is, that the fire is inside him. It's inside everybody who does what's right. It ends with the boy telling the man if he could just take him with him, and the man says, I can't hold my dead son in my arms. I thought I could, but I can't. If I'm not here, you can still talk to me. You can talk to me and I'll talk to you. You'll see. Will I hear you? Asked the boy. Yes, you will. And you'll hear me? Asked the boy. You have to practice. Just don't give up, okay? Said the man. Okay. The boy went looking for more supplies, but came back empty-handed. When he came back, he saw his father sleeping, and so decided to crawl up next to him and slept the night. When he awoke, his father didn't. The boy spent hours there, sitting down with the father, weeping and crying. Then he got up and walked out from the woods into the road. When he came back, he knelt beside the father and held his cold, dead hand, saying his name over and over again. Eventually, after 3 days, he covered his father with blankets. At that moment, the boy heard something coming. Taking the pistol and cocking it, he pointed at a man standing before him. In a grey parka, rugged beard, cheek covered in scars and injuries of battle, carrying a shotgun with a nylon bandolier full of shells. This mysterious man came up to the boy and began talking to him, asking who the man was, and after a conversation of who the man was, he apologized for the boy for losing his dad and told him he should come with him. The boy refused, and the man swung the shotgun from in front of him to behind him before kneeling down and asking the boy to put the revolver away. Look, he said, you got 2 choices here. There was some discussion about whether even coming after you at all. You can stay here with your papa and die, or you can go with me. If you stay, you need to keep out of the road. I don't know how you made it this far, but you should go with me. You'll be alright. How do I know you're one of the good guys? Asked the boy. You don't. You'll have to take a shot. Are you carrying the fire? Am I what? Are you carrying the fire? You're kind of weirded out, aren't you, kid? No, just a little. Yeah, that's okay. So are you? What, carrying the fire? Yes. Yeah, we are. Do you have any kids? We do, said the man. Do you have a little boy? We have a little boy and we have a little girl. How old is he? He's about your age, maybe a little older. And you didn't eat them? No, said the man. You don't eat people. No, we don't eat people. And I can go with you? Yes, you can. Okay then. Okay, said the man. The man promised to go back and get their supplies, so the boy didn't have to do it by himself. But the boy begged to keep a blanket on his father. The man promised, and when he came back to leave for the group, the boy asked if he could go with his father one last time. He walked back into the woods and knelt beside his father. He was wrapped in a singular blanket, as the man promised, and the boy didn't uncover him, but he sat beside him and began to cry, and he couldn't stop. He cried for a long time. I'll talk to you every day, he whispered, and I won't forget, no matter what. Then he rose, turned away, and walked back out into the road. The woman, when she saw him, put her arms around him. Oh, she said, I'm so glad to see you. She would talk to him sometimes, about God. He tried to talk to God, but the best thing he could do was talk to his father. And he did talk to him, and he never forgot. The woman said that it was alright. She said that the breath of God was his breath, yet, though it passed from man to man, through all of time. And with that, the story ends. No far-off land of salvation, no magical cure, no time travel to save the day. The boy goes on, down the road again, this time with other people. A man, a woman, some kids his age. And though he lost the father, he didn't lose the flame. While the ending is sad, it's not hopeless. I mean, the world around them has no hope. But for those in the world, carrying the fire through the darkness, there will always be hope simply by living. I think the road shows a beautiful message. Of course, people can learn different things from this story, but to me, it helped me understand to keep moving forward. Because sometimes you don't get to fulfill the life you wanted. You don't get to be in the relationship you wanted, or get to enjoy what you want, get to work the dream job you wanted, or maybe you never get to see the ocean. Worse or bad things happen, losing loved ones, your plans failing, the world falling apart. But maybe, simply by being here, with each other and getting closer to what is good, maybe that's enough. During the beginning of the book, I mentioned the nightmare the boy had, one of a wind-up toy continuing forward without anything powering it. It sounds like it doesn't really have that much meaning, but if you think about it, it's a representation of what the boy never wanted to become, and what the father almost became. A toy, or a person, continuing forward, moving along, but without any energy or motive pushing it forward. Like the woman told the man that she knew that he wasn't going to keep living because of himself. Instead, she knew that he was going to keep living to help the boy. We see almost every character on the road continuing forward, living and doing what they can to survive, but without having any values or virtues. With the exception of Ellie, everybody else is willing to abandon their hopes, their morality, their virtues, and their empathy simply to survive. Everyone except the boy and the man. The wound-up toy represented what they didn't want to become. They didn't want to continue moving forward simply to go forward, to survive simply to survive. If they were going to continue going forward, if they would continue to endure in this life, it wasn't through violence, through death, or through stealing. It was going to be holding on to these values that the boy and the man held dear to them. And no matter how bad life gets, no matter how many things you go through, or no matter how cruel the world around you seems, holding on to our humanity and the virtues that make us good makes it worth it. Carrying on the flame even throughout the darkness. The man watched them. Real life is pretty bad, huh? What do you think? Well, I think we're still here. A lot of bad things have happened, but we're still here. This has been a summary of Cormac McCarthy's The Road, and once again, I want to thank you for listening to the entire video. And if you really enjoyed the video, please make sure to support me any way you can. Thank you.